Alright, we should be live, and I forgot to turn my mic on. This is so stupid.
Well, that was the most professional way to start live stream. I forgot to turn my mic on. I think you guys can hear me now, though. I'm seeing that I'm getting feedback on the audio now. That was the best way to start this, and now that I started it, I think I'm going to have to make a couple changes to the set. I'm going to just pause for a minute. I got to close my shade and turn my lights on so that I don't have glare in the background. I apologize for that. I will be right back.
This is great. We're adding to the unprofessionality with this.
My mic died. This is just wonderful. Yeah, everything's working out. Mic died. I hate technology sometimes. Now I'm just trying to see if I can undo this now. I don't care. Screw it. So, what was the race that Bricks and Mortar won on the Turf Classic? I love technology. Technology is my favorite thing in the world. But so we're here now. I need to get all this out of my face. Probably should have taken care of all this before I started, but everything's all good now. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we have upcoming on Racing Rundown. Hey, I missed your hi while I was dealing with this stupid sound issue. Is my sound all right? I know this mic isn't as good as this one, but this is dead, so. I watched Bricks and Mortars as a 3-year-old before he won. He ran Belmont Stakes Day of 2017. What race did he run in? Oh, he just ran in an allowance. Yeah, Bricks and Mortar has been a very solid horse. He won as a 3-year-old. He won the National Museum of Racing Stakes, and then really this year has really turned into a very nice horse. Now, I will say about Bricks and Mortar is, he's beat American horses, so I think they'll still probably go with him. You excited to see Paradise Woods win the Santa Maria? She's going. Oh, that race is on right now. I could probably turn on TVG. I don't want to go get my clicker though. So Yeah, update me on that if Paradise Woods wins that. Paradise Woods, I think. I'm so just acing the professionality today. Paradise Woods, did she win the Breeders' Cup a couple years ago? I remember her winning something. I think it was the Breeders' Cup. If it wasn't the Breeders' Cup, it was one of. No. Why are you asking that? No, that was the Santa Anita Oaks that she won. That was my bad. I hate this. I hate the fact that this died. Yeah, she won the Kentucky Oaks. That's what I'm thinking of. That's weird. I don't know why I thought Abel Tasman won the Kentucky Oaks one year. Oh, I misread your comment. Yeah, no. She won the Santa Anita Oaks, and then I misread your comment. I thought you said that recently she won. All right, I don't want to deal with you right now. All right. Yeah, she won. Recently, she won the Santa. Yeah, I saw that. She won the Santa Margarita in April. Hang on, I'm just gonna kick this guy out. I don't want him bothering me. So, yeah, that's it. We got a lot of stuff to discuss. Belmont is obviously next weekend. I will let you guys know this. I am going to be confirmed at the Belmont Stakes. So, Paradise Woods is in hell right now. She broke slowly and ooh, that's not good. She started dead last. So, I will address this for a couple minutes. Why I haven't had enough time to. Good evening. Your sound is out. Yeah, I know. My sound was not working earlier because my stupid headset. I thought I had plugged this in. I think what happened is either my Bluetooth stopped working or my sound momentarily died. I'm not taking any chances, so I went to the old thing. She actually closed late to get second, but La Force held her out. Pretty disappointing. Yeah, well, when you don't have a good start like that, you can't really deal with that. So, like I said, I do want to update you guys a little bit on why there's kind of been a lull in content coming from this channel. I did say that I wanted to wait for the Belmont Stakes to deal with all the stuff with the Belmont profile, and that is still true. I'm not going to make up although I'm not going to say that that's the only reason why. I will also say that I have been offered a position that I originally was with my high school before I started Racing Rundown. Uh, with my high school, I had originally what Racing Rundown originally was, and I haven't made this 100% clear yet. But what originally Racing Rundown was going to be a sports podcast for my high school. I had been asked to do that, and it didn't work out initially with my high school. So that's how Racing Rundown kind of came about. The fact that it was I don't want to say a failed attempt because it eventually did work out with my high school, but it was originally an attempt to do that with my high school. Did not work out. That's how Racing Rundown started. But I was offered to be a correspondent for my high school. So I've been at some games the past couple of days and I've lost any and all recording time. Not that that's an excuse or anything, but I should mention that we will hopefully get all the horses in the Belmont Profile series. What is there, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? So there's 10. So I'm thinking that if I can get 2 videos out a day, that we might be able to get that in. I do also have to say on June 6th, we have the 100th anniversary Man of War special. So that's coming out. I do also want to mention, I did say on Twitter that I had a big announcement to say. We already do have the Hall of Fame jockey Gary Stevens coming on the podcast. That's still set for June 17th, a Monday. I don't have the time yet for that. I wanted to wait until the week of to figure out when we were going to do that. But we do have the Hall of Famer Gary Stevens coming on the show. I'm not sure. I originally said that I was hoping to get it live streamed and get questions, get you guys to be able to ask him questions. I'm not going to promise that that's going to happen because I have not been able to work out what's going to happen with audio and everything. And I'm not even sure that we're going to have enough time. Ideally, I would love to be able to get that into a place where we can have questions with the Hall of Famer, but I cannot 100% guarantee that. And also, I cannot even 100% guarantee that I'm going to be able to live stream it. So hopefully I can live stream it. Hopefully we can get you guys to be able to ask the Hall of Famer questions. But I will also say Racing Rundown has secured another guest for the podcast. Please make it live. You want to talk to me? I will try my best. But Racing Rundown has also secured another guest. National correspondent for the Racing Forum, Jay Privman. I will be at Belmont Park with him talking live for a few minutes, and then he will come on at some point. He will come on the live show at some point. We'll kind of do with him what we did with Gary Stevens some point later on in the summer. I think, like I said, the past couple of weeks, I am hoping that I can, at this point, starting out, get one interview a month. I am hoping that at some point we can get this to be more mainstream where we can get an interview a week. I'm not going to promise any timetable for that, but that is the hope at some point. But right now, I think we're just going to stick to one interview a month. We got Gary Stevens, Jay Privman's probably going to, something's going to happen in July. I do also have someone who is a friend of mine that is not very big into horse racing, but is kind of the person that comes around every year for the Triple Crown. And I wanted to have someone like that on the show because I wanted to get I wanted to get that kind of person's perspective. So that's what you got coming up on the guest side of this. You got Gary Stevens in June, Jay Privman in July, and then we'll see what happens in August. And probably that's when I'll have that guy on in August. And then we'll see what happens over the rest of the summer. I can also say that I will be going to one of the last days of live racing at Suffolk Downs, either on the 29th or the 30th of June. I got to see about that. One thing I will say is I do have someone, and I'm forgetting her name at the moment, but I do have to test out stuff for the live show to see if I can even make live streaming the thing with Gary Stevens feasible. So I do have someone from a nonprofit organization that's trying to preserve the memory of the great Lady Secret Horse of the Year 1986. She was on the live show last week. I'm not sure if she's here at the moment, but she will be joining me during the live show on June 15th, either June 15th or 16th. I'm not sure if I'm going to. How about talking to Gary? Gary West is not going to come on my show. I can almost guarantee you, Bill, that Gary West would not come on this show. But yeah, I mean, I'm really, obviously, I'm excited to have Gary, but I'm kind of surprised that Gary Stevens came on the show. But hey, we're happy to have him. But yeah, Gary West will not come on the show. Yes, Lady Secret is the daughter of Secretariat. So yeah, we will be having her on June, either June 15th or 16th. I'm not sure how that live show that weekend is going to work out because I do have plans that weekend. So whether or not that's going to happen on that day is to be determined, but that live show is going to happen at some point. And she will be on for, she's not going to be on for the whole live show, probably something like 10 minutes. I just want her to kind of give her perspective on it. I'm not affiliated with her, but I've been talking with her over the past couple of days about the live show and everything. And while I can't give her my support directly, I want to bring her on and have her. How do you add guests to the pod? Well, what I'm going to do is she's going to call me up on the cell phone, and I have bought some new equipment, so I want to test that out. And that's the mic that I'm going to be using with Gary. I still have no idea how I'm going to do the interview with Gary Stevens, and I'm kind of not necessarily having a nightmare over it, but it's not been the best. I still don't know how I'm going to do that, and we'll see if that works out with being able to live stream that, but we'll see how everything works out. The one thing I do say about my phone that is kind of concerning me is the fact that people in the past have had trouble hearing me, so I have to hold my phone right up to my mouth and literally yell into my mic. And so if I have that and have that right into Gary Stevens' mic, I'm not sure how the audio is going to work out, but I will be testing all this out over the coming days. So, excuse me. We will do our best to get that live streamed, and I will also see if I can do my best to m- make it so that you guys can ask him questions. I have thought about that. I like doing stuff the way that I do it my way, but I do appreciate your suggestions. But yeah, so that lady from the Lady Secret nonprofit, what my general understanding of it is, she's trying to raise money to collect all the various trophies that Lady Secret has. There's one on eBay for like $4,500. She's trying to raise money to get that. So basically, that's what she's going to come on for, and we'll see if that ends up working out for her. But so you got that to look forward to on June 15th. We also got Belmont Stakes Weekend is obviously next week. We will be talking about that significantly. Yeah, basically, she's the ultimate Lady Secret fan. Which, I mean, she was telling me how Lady Secret has kind of been getting the shaft recently, which, thinking about it, Lady Secret really has kind of gotten the shaft with getting her stakes race name, uh, name of that race being given to Zenyatta. So she has kind of been getting the shaft recently. But I mean, the one thing I will say is Zenyatta's great. Both of them are great horses, and unfortunately, you can't have a stakes race named for every horse, and there's a limited amount of Grade 1 races. So, I understand people being upset about the fact that Lady Secret no longer has a Grade 1 to her name, but every horse cannot have a Grade 1 named after them. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to start asking me questions about some of the stakes races next week at Belmont Park, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I'll be open to talking about any horse. I have not yet recorded any of the horses in the Belmont Profile series, so I am either hoping to get that done, some of it done today, some of it done tomorrow, and then I'm going to lose Wednesday because I do have to go somewhere. I don't even know where I have to go yet. I got to figure that out. But I probably am going to lose Wednesday for recording. So, unfortunately, I mean, I will try to bulk record. I did know that the Epsom Derby was today. I have not found the replay of it yet. And I just remember that right before I went live. And I said, I got to find the Derby because I know there's a couple of people. I'm not sure if Wayne is going to be here, but I know Wayne has been here in the past, and we've talked about. Wayne was here the day of the 2000 Guineas, so I'll see if I can find the replay of the Derby. I saw that Anthony Van. I don't know how to pronounce the last one. I'm just going to say Anthony Van Dyke, but I saw that he won the Derby. Assuming that that's a male. I don't think that there's been a filly. I don't think there was a filly running in the Derby this year, unless someone wants to correct me and once again make me look even more like an idiot. But here it is on Racing TV. I'm gonna see that. Who is this? I saw that it was a very tight photo. Yeah, that was a very tight photo. Jeez. But yeah, I don't know too much about European racing, but I will give him credit for winning the Derby. But feel free to drop your horses in. What races you want to talk about? Whether you want to talk about the Met Mile, the Acorn, the Met, not the Met Mile, the personal, not the personal ensign either, the Ogden Phipps. I'm just mixing up all kinds of races. And then obviously the Belmont Stakes. Hopefully we will be getting more from the Belmont Profile Series. Like I said, I might cut this a little earlier because I do want to not lose too much of that. And I was asked, I don't know who asked me, but I was asked to try to give each horse his own video for it. So I'm going to do my best to grant that, but I can't necessarily guarantee that with the amount of time that I've lost with this. But I will do my best. Unfortunately, there's not enough hours in the day. But so, like I said, I will be at Belmont Park, so I will let you guys know on Tuesday where my seats are. So if any of you are going to be there, once you went to Royal Ascot and went to the finish line, and this British guy said I couldn't. That's disappointing that you couldn't go to the finish line because you didn't have a suit on. But yeah, so I will let you guys know where my seats are. So if you want to, just meet up and talk racing at Belmont Park, that's fine. Like I said, I will be talking with Jay Pridman. So if you see me with Jay Pridman, please don't disturb me with that, obviously. But I don't think I'm going to be talking to Jay for too long. So, but yeah, so Jay will be. I'm not sure if I'm going to live that. Probably what's going to happen is I'll talk to him and then I'll upload the content after the fact. But so Jay will be on for a few minutes and then we'll get Jay on sometime during the summer. So feel free to drop your discussion points about the races next weekend. And I will also say that I do not think I will be able to have a live stream next weekend, unfortunately, because I will be at Belmont Park, and that gets over usually around the time when I like to start my live videos, and I have to take a ferry back to where I live, so I will not be getting home until very late Saturday night, probably even Sunday morning. And Sunday morning, I do not think I will be able to do a live show. So unfortunately, we will not have a live show next weekend, but I will do my best to get the podcast out not next week, but the week after is my finals week. So AKA Hell Week. But despite the fact that that is my Hell Week, I will do my best to get my podcast out. What about a Sunday? See, the reason that I can't have a Sunday stream is that week is my finals week, and I probably will be recording the podcast on Sunday so that I can be able to get that out to you guys and avoid not having an episode the week of my finals, like I said, otherwise known as Hell Week. But so we'll see. I'm not guaranteeing a Sunday stream, and I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. I'm just not saying don't get your hopes up for it. And I'd much rather cut a live stream from a week than cut an entire week of the podcast. And plus, since that Anthony Van, geez, O'Brien won another. O'Brien's the best trainer in the world. As good of a trainer as Bob Bafferton, it's O'Brien. Either O'Brien or O'Brien's the best trainer in England. Saeed Ben Sarour's the best trainer in Dubai. Black Caviar versus Frankel. That would be a good matchup. That would definitely be a good matchup. That would be a matchup you could probably get pay-per-view on. But yeah, so like I said, feel free to, if you're at Belmont Park, feel free to talk to me about that. Now, the one thing I do want to say, yeah, well, I mean, you remember back during the 90s when Wayne Lucas would send all his large entries. It's not unheard of having huge entries in races. I don't think there's anything against that. I don't think it's bad. I think it's giving yourself the best chance to win it. And if you have horses that are good enough, why not run as many as you can? One thing I do want to say about the Belmont Stakes, Bourbon War, they're taking the blinkers off. I really had no idea why they put blinkers on him. And the other thing I have no idea is why is Tacitus the favorite over the Preakness winner? I think the Preakness winner, War of Will, is getting the shaft. But Bourbon War, I think taking the blinkers off is a good thing. Bob Baffert versus Aidan O'Brien versus Saeed Ben Suver. I think you could say those are the three best trainers. Maybe putting in Chad Brown, but Chad Brown, not the best, not the most moral person, but we're not talking about morality. We're just talking about talent of the trainer. So I think you could put those four guys in. Maybe Chris Waller too. So maybe maybe Baffert, Aidan O'Brien, Saeed Ben Sarour, Chad Brown, and Chris Waller. Or if you just want to kick Baffert out, because Chad Brown has been the best trainer in this country over the past 4 years. So really, if you want to have a matchup of the best trainers in the world, Baffert, Saeed Ben Sarour, or not Baffert, Brown, Sarour, O'Brien, and Chris Waller. And then I don't know who the top trainer in Japan is. But the one thing I will say about the Belmont Stakes for Bourbon War that kind of concerns me is I'm not necessarily seeing a pace for him. And we saw how not having a pace affected him in the Preakness. And really, I had no idea what they were doing with the blinkers in the Preakness. I don't think any person with a brain thought that Bourbon War getting blinkers was a good thing. I really don't think that Bourbon War. Thank you for putting the morning line in the stream for the audience. I have the morning line right in front of me, but for people who can't see it, good. We got Tacitus, War of Will. Tacitus 2-1 favorite, War of Will 5-1, Bourbon War 8, Master Fencer 8, Intrepid Heart 8, Sir Winston 8, Everfast 12, Spinoff 15, Tax 20, Joeva 20. I don't know why Everfast is getting so much respect. Everfast, geez. What do I want to say about Everfast? Everfast kind of reminds me of Bodie Express. Bodie Express ran a decent race in the Kentucky Derby and elevated on the odds board. There was no reason that Bodie Express should have been that high in the Preakness. And I really don't care that he threw the rider. He wouldn't have done anything even if he didn't throw the rider. I just want to see if I'm... That's hard. Yeah, I was talking to Jay, and I told Jay that I get a lot of my note information from Horse Racing Nation, because I had mentioned to Jay that I wasn't sure if what's her face, Newspaper of Record was going to go to Royal Ascot, and he told me that she's not going to Royal Ascot, and he's like, "Where'd you hear that from?" And I said, "Horse Racing Nation." He's like, "That's what I thought." He said, "Horse Racing Nation is not the best place to get it," and that's what I said. Like, and I have been promoting, not much recently, but once again, I will promote the Daily Racing Forum, Jay Privman. It's $1 a month, but it's a very good dollar a month. Jay Privman and all those people at the Daily Racing Forum are great people. They know their stuff. And Jay is not paying me to do this, not asking me to do this. This is just me saying that these people are the best. If you're looking to get Horse Racing Nation, it just kind of takes their stuff from other people. So they'll hear it from the guys like the Daily Racing Forum, Blood Horse, Ray Pollock even, and then they'll create their stuff themselves. The one thing I will say about them, though, is they are very good about getting stuff out. Bodie Express had a horrible time in the Derby. He had a second in the Florida Derby, but Maximum Security ruined the race. Which race? I assume you're talking about the Kentucky Derby, because Maximum Security ran a very clean Florida Derby. But are you really going to tell me that Bodie Express, a maiden, was going to win the Kentucky Derby? I realize that he got taken out in the Kentucky Derby, and I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, because I have said that the disqualification was 100% the right decision. And here's something that's coming out. Tax might not run in the Belmont Stakes, which I think if Tax doesn't run in the Belmont Stakes, that takes away any kind of prayer of a pace. And I think that really affects horses like Master Fencer, like Bodie Express, like Bourbon War, like Everfast. I think if you don't have a pace in there, War of Will is the only thing remotely kind of a pace horse in the Belmont Stakes. And I think War of Will might kind of be the case of just he finds himself on the lead by default. The one thing I will say, though, is War of Will's a talented horse. So is Tacitus. And Tacitus was third in the Kentucky Derby, fourth initially, but got moved up to third. Tacitus didn't run a bad Kentucky Derby. Mott originally ran 2-4, then ended up running 1-3. Since Joeva is the speed, what are his... Yeah, I think Joeva is not going to have much competition on the speed. Is tired, and unless he pulls a point. Yeah. You see, I've been talking about that a lot, and we haven't had a horse win the Preakness and the Belmont but lose the Derby since a Fleet Alex. And really that has kind of been that horses just don't run in all three races anymore. Like, a lot of people were making a big deal about Exaggerator, but like I've said about Exaggerator, every time I talk about him, yeah, Tappet has not produced a Kentucky Derby winner, but Tappet horses love Belmont. And I think, people who really know what they're doing are going to look at, like, I know some people who are avid bettors and like do more research than I do, because I'm not a bettor. Like, I'll make my picks for fun, but I don't put money on them. Only times they did not win was when the Triple Crown happened. Yeah. What are you talking about? Please clarify what you're talking about. I think you're talking about the Preakness Belmont, but not Derby winners, but I'm not entirely sure, so I want to get an idea of what you're talking about. But yeah, some of the avid gamblers that I know are definitely going to look at that, and they're going to see Tappet horses tend to do really well. I think if I'm going to try to name them off the top of my head is Taproot, Creator, and Tonalist. Yeah, Tappet, Creator, and Tonalist, I think, are the Tappet horses. And it's not three. Oh yeah, three out of the last five. And then you had Justify and American Pharaoh. American Pharaoh, Pioneer of the Nile. And I thought you said three out of the last four. I'll give you credit. You know your stuff. Giving you a lot of credit for that. You know your stuff. But yeah, so I will say, I'll go back to his point for a minute. I think Joe Eva kind of is going to find himself on the. I think it's going to be Joe Eva and War of Will, and I really don't think they're going to be in a speed duel per se. I think it's yeah, you know your stuff. I think it's just kind of be they'll find themselves on the lead by default, and then I think if it's a slow pace, then that spells trouble for Bourbon War, Everfast, and Master Fencer. I really don't think that there's going to be a lot of pace in this race, and like I said, there's a lot of questions about Tax running. So if Tax doesn't run, that takes another horse that's going to be in contention on the lead. And the other thing I do want to address about the stuff that's happening in Southern California, this is just a testament to how quickly people forget about good things and quickly look at the bad. They went 46 days without having anything fatal happening. And in a period of 10 days, they lose three horses, which that's by no means is a good thing. I'm not saying that's a good thing. Do you think Joeva is going to get an unchallenged lead? And I think Joeva could get an unchallenged lead. And, you saw the way Datara, a big long shot, ran the Belmont Stakes in 2008. He had absolutely no pressure. And, there was the big excuse in there for Big Brown on the spread shoe. And I think, you know, that is one of the Belmont Stakes that I think you could rerun and give Big Brown a clean trip and not have a spread shoe. And I think Big Brown wins the Triple Crown if that doesn't happen. Do you see Master Fencer's last work where he stumbled at the. I did not see the work itself, but I heard about that. And I heard people say that stuff came back negative from that, but that's not necessarily something you want to see. I have no idea why people. I get Bourbon War type of horses, the mile and a half, but I don't see the speed in this race. Like I said, there's not a lot of speed in this race. I will say though, some of the races in the summer, the Travers is going to be loaded. I don't think I'm going to be able to get up to Saratoga this summer for the Travers, but the Travers is going to be absolutely loaded. So if you're looking for a race to go to this summer, the Haskell could be a good race. I think Maximum Security might try to come back in the Haskell, but the Travers is going to be a loaded race. And the Travers this year is going to be on Fox for the first time. Like I said, back in March when I heard it, why am I talking about November? Back in March when I heard about that, Fox is seriously trying to make a run. I think Fox is seriously trying to make a run at NBC for horse racing. And I don't know if they would be stupid enough to let their rights to the Triple Crown go away because they had that in 2006. They lapsed and the rights went to ESPN. Now, I know they didn't lapse. When I say lapsed is they got in a disagreement with Naira and Naira pulled out from them and allowed someone else to take the rights. But I think Fox is making a serious run at this. But yes, to answer your question, I did see uh, Master Fencer's run. I don't think that that's necessarily something you want to see, but I'm not 100% concerned about it. The way that I would kind of rank this Belmont field, though, I don't want to say that it's a bad field, but I don't think it's necessarily the best field. And I think there's kind of a lot of horses in there that are kind of iffy. Eh, I would not be surprised if Tacitus won. I would not be surprised if War of Will won. But like I said, and like Sketchy brought up earlier, is that uh, what what are you going to do? I mean, he's the only horse that's run in all three Triple Crown races. That's not necessarily the. Yeah, NBC didn't have the Belmont from 2006 to 2010, so that was a 5-year stretch. And I really don't know why they would allow Naira to screw them like that. But I mean, it's done, and they got it back, and I think they're going to have it for a long time. But yeah, so I mean, I don't necessarily want to say that I want to do this 100%, but I'm kind of thinking that I want to cut this a little bit early because, like I said, with the recording time that I've lost, I do want to see if I could get some of the catch up a little bit on some of it. So unfortunately, I think I am going to cut this early. If you guys want to drop some more points down in and we can hit some stuff. But really what I think I'm going to do is I'll just talk about preview all the races for the Belmont for the podcast on Tuesday. And we'll get some of the Belmont profile series. But if you guys want to drop points in there, because I'm also not seeing a lot of points coming in. If you guys want to discuss anything, feel free to drop it in. But I'm not seeing a lot of stuff coming in on the content side. And I want to get caught up with the stuff for the Belmont profile series. Because I did get some requests. After the Triple Crown, should I make a... I mean, you can do what you want. I'm not stopping you from doing anything. One thing, and I wanted to say this earlier, and I got sidetracked with it. After the Belmont, we'll have the Gary Stevens interview on Monday. The week of the 15th or the week of the 17th is going to be loaded. We got the Gary Stevens interview on the Monday, and then we're going to have, I will give out my mid-year Eclipse Awards. Now, I'm not going to give out Eclipse Awards for everything, but I'll give out awards for male turf horse, female turf horse, older male dirt horse, older female dirt horse. I don't really know if we've had a sprint division yet. The Travers will be loaded. You could call... Yeah, you could call the Travers definitely is going to earn its title of the Midsummer Derby, because definitely last year, I mean, there were a lot of good horses in the Travers, but it was definitely disappointing that the best horse in the country was not in the Travers. That would be Justify. But the Travers this year, you're going to have Game Winner, you're going to have Max. I would assume that Maximum Security is going to run in there because the dumbass Gary West is going to make himself look like even more of an idiot. Can you imagine how funny that would be if we got Gary West on the podcast? I'm not saying that that would ever happen. But, I mean, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes with the guest wise. But I can say that we'll probably get more stuff after the Gary Stevens interview. But definitely, like, if you guys want to promote that, go ahead and do so. I'm promoting it myself. But yeah, so like I said, just drop your points in the comments. Max should have a shot at the Travers if he can keep his head straight. I think the Travers would decide the 3-year-old champion. Although one thing I could say is the older male division this year is weak, but it's not like it was in 2014 where there was like a glut of like no older male horses. But I think the Breeders' Cup Classic this year, you could be looking at a 14 horse field and a very, very loaded field at that, because there's a very inconsistent older male field, and it's going to be interesting to see what horses are going to go where. I've made this point, and I'm beating the dead horse with this point, but I have made this point time and time again about McKenzie. He's going to run in the Met Mile. I think he's going to win the Met Mile. I'm really hoping that with McKenzie, they keep him in the 7 to 8 furlongs area. I really don't want to see them stretch him out to try to run him. If they run him in the Whitney, that's one thing. But I do not think running in the Woodward Stakes and running in the Jockey Club Gold Cup or the Breeders' Cup Classic is going to be a benefit for him. I think, if there ever was a horse that was tailor-made for the Breeders' Cup Mile, I think that is McKenzie. And what I would love for McKenzie is I would love to see him after the Met Mile. I'd love to see him run in the Allen Jerkins. I would not like to see him in the Whitney, and I would not like to see him in the Woodward. I would love to see him in either the Forego or the Allen Jerkins. Do I think Vino Rosso can take on McKenzie? I mean, I think they're both decent horses. I don't really know where McKenzie's going to go after the Met Mile, but I think McKenzie is Vino Rosso going to run in the Met Mile? I would not think so. Coming on, you don't run horses. This isn't the age where you run horses 2 weeks after a big race. No, Vino Rosso is going to go in the Suburban Handicap and going to go in the Suburban Handicap in July. But if they ran against each other, I think they could combat each other. If Baffert will go on for the big, if Baffert will go for the big money with McKenzie if he wins. You think Baffert? Knowing Bob Baffert, I think he's going to do that. Yeah, they could meet in the Whitney handicap, but Vino Rosso is pointing for the Suburban, so actually I don't think they would do that. What is the date of the Whitney actually? 2019 Whitney. But I want to go back to Williams' point. I know Baffert is the type of trainer Baffert is. Baffert is going to go for the big money. I do not want to see that, but knowing Bob Baffert, that is where they're going to take McKenzie. They're going to take him into the. What do you think of Gift Box? I don't think Gift Boxes accelerate. That's what I'll say about Gift Box. I mean, Vino Rosso winning definitely surprised me, but there was a reason why Todd Pletcher brought him all the way out to Southern California. And I forget who was asking me this last. I think it was you. I think it was you, William, that was asking me why was Todd Pletcher bringing him out. And you know what? Actually, Vino Rosso could go in the Whitney because the Whitney's on August 3rd. If they're going in the Suburban on July 2nd, that gives them a month between the Suburban and the Whitney. I think you could definitely go from the Suburban to the Whitney. So, you know, a mile and a 16th with McKenzie is the absolute limit that I would put him at. I actually no, scratch that. A mile and an eighth is the absolute limit. I think the Whitney is in his wheelhouse. I would love to see McKenzie be given the shot at the distance where he excels at the most, and that would be in the mile division. And it's unfortunate that there's not real, and I really hope that they create a race that, you know, you got the Met Mile, maybe, you know, what I would love to see them do, TBF, he can, to be frank, he came up just short by, I know he came up just short in the big cap, but I also saw him in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year run poorly. I saw him run poorly in the. So really, what I'm looking at with McKenzie is, and I'm not saying McKenzie can't run at a mile and a quarter because the big cap kind of gave me a little bit more faith in McKenzie. But the thing that I will say about him is that I would just love to see him stay at the distance where he excels at the most, and I think that's the kind of the mile to mile and an eighth division. But the H. Allen Jerkins is definitely something that I would love to see McKenzie going. But like you said, I do not think that Baffert is going to keep him out of the big races because the H. Allen Jerkins does not necessarily mean big purses. So I mean that's unfortunate, but you know, I'm not saying that McKenzie can't run. I'm just saying that I think he runs best in that division. The other thing that we got coming up is we got the anticipated rematch between Elate and Midnight Bizu. And the one thing that I'm going to say about Monomoy Girl is, where is she? I don't know. You can play Where's Waldo with Monomoy Girl, but I think, you know, that's going to definitely affect her when it comes to running in the Eclipse Awards because Monomoy Girl is probably only going to get 3 races. And I think, honestly, I mean, obviously, you could probably guess who my mid-year Eclipse Awards are going to go to. I'm not going to spoil it, but, you know, honestly, if Midnight Bizu wins the Ogden Phipps, if she goes on to, I mean, usually knowing the way the Eclipse Award voters are, the Breeders' Cup horse is going to get it by default, but it's going to make it very hard for Monomoy Girl. She's going to have to win races to win the Eclipse Award. And Midnight Bizu has looked like she's taken a big step up from last year. Now, Midnight Bizu beat Monomoy Girl last year in one of the cheesiest disqualifications I've ever seen. I know a lot of people thought the Kentucky Derby was cheesy. That uh, disqualification in the Cotillion was a complete cheese. Midnight Bizu was the Alidar of the females, always behind Monomoy Girl unless disqualified. And now, when with her gone, she takes out. Yeah, Midnight Bizu. A lot of people were buying Elate in the Apple Blossom Handicap. I was not. And I think once again, it's going to be Midnight Bizu over Elate. But that Ogden, and I can't remember, but I think I called it the Personal Ensign. I mix up the Personal Ensign and the Ogden Phipps. It's the Ogden Phipps, not the Personal Ensign. The Personal Ensign is run later in the year. That was my fault. Personal Ensign's a race at Saratoga. But Ogden Phipps, I think that's going to be a good race. But I think the best race of the card is going to be the Met Mile. And now you got, in addition to McKenzie, you got Promises Fulfilled. jumping into the Met Mile. Although I have said about Promises Fulfilled that I'm kind of over him. But that is a very interesting race, and I completely glossed over My Tolly. My Tolly has run some big races. He's now I don't want to say upset, but he's kind of surpassed Whitmore. He's won the Count Fleet and the Churchill Downs Stakes. So right now, My Tolly is looking really, really good, and it's another case of Monomoy girls. I saw this article on Horse Racing Nation. I know I bashed them, but I still like to read some of their articles. And what they said about that's where I'm kind of getting this point from. But they brought up not Stephanie's Kitten, Sister Charlie and Monomoy Girls, the two horses that haven't shown up. But the other thing is Roy H hasn't shown up either. And, I don't know that Roy H is going to fall off necessarily, but My Tolly is going to make a big push for looking really good in the looking really good in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. But yeah, and I brought up last week talking about Gift Box from that loaded class of 2016. I completely glossed over Whitmore. Whitmore is also from that. But the thing I will say about Whitmore is Whitmore has kind of been a little bit a step back from that. And unfortunately, Whitmore, I've given him my pick twice, and Whitmore has disappointed me. So I'm over Whitmore, and I'm over Promises Fulfilled. But like I said, the Met Mile is going to be loaded. Promises Fulfilled, Whitmore, Thunder Snow coming over from Dubai. It's going to be interesting to see how he runs. There has been the story that he's going to run in the United States. I think Thunder Snow is the best horse in the history of Maidan racing. That's not necessarily saying that he gets the United States, although he did run second in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Thunder Snow should stay. Well, Thunder Snow's not retired. Thunder Snow, I think this is going to be Thunder Snow's last year. And I mean, there's really no reason for him to run after this year. He's won back-to-back Dubai World Cups. And if I still don't know what the best horse in this country is, I think the best male horse that's run this year, I don't even know. I would be hard-pressed to figure out who the best male horse is. Honestly, you could give it to McKenzie winning the Churchill Downs Stakes. If he wins the Met Mile, he was second in the Big Cap, second in the San Pasquale. Granted, he was well beaten in the San Pasquale, but he lost the Big Cap by a nose. I'd be hard pressed to say that McKenzie is not the best older male horse in this country. And even if he's not running at the longer distances, I would be hard pressed to say that McKenzie is not that. But I really don't know. I'm going to spend a couple of weeks thinking about my mid-season Eclipse Awards. We probably won't have 2-year-old awards, and I can say most likely we won't have 2-year-olds because we haven't had a large enough sample size. But probably what we'll get is we'll get turf, both turf categories, both dirt categories, as in both older dirt and both 3-year-old dirt. And then I'm not going to do any human awards. We'll just do those simple ones. If McKenzie can extend a streak and maybe try his luck in the Classic, he could. Oh, yeah, McKenzie's definitely in the position for Horse of the Year. And after McKenzie won after he won the Malibu, McKenzie, a lot of people were saying McKenzie is going to be this year's gun runner. And I haven't necessarily seen that materialize. And then I heard some people say about Gift Box that he's going to be this year's Accelerate. I don't think Gift Box is going to be Accelerate this year, and I'm kind of cautious on McKenzie. Until I see McKenzie win at longer than 8 furlongs, I'm holding back. But I definitely am hoping that McKenzie is definitely a horse that's tailor-made for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I know that's not the way Baffert goes, but I really hope that McKenzie is kept at that distance. So, I mean, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in. Like I said, I will update. Got the Belmont Profile Series on Thursday. Not only is the Belmont Profile Series from that day coming out, but we got the article, Man of War. I'm going to spoil the title of that article. I called it Man of War, the Mostest Horse. 100 years later, you remember, that's what the groom of Man of War called him, the Mostest Horse. Now, I'm not going to call it the Mostest, but you got that. And then also the video, Man of War, 100 years later. God, I can't believe that was 100 years ago. He ran his first race, won 6.5 lengths. The maiden race at Belmont Park, 100 years ago. Man of War was one of the first sports superstars of this country, and he started just a few years before the radio years. But this is actually kind of funny. It's kind of not gonna lie, Man of War would not have done well against horses today. I'm going to completely disagree with you on that. I'm going to 100% completely disagree with you. I would say 100% Man of War would be unbeatable in times this year because I mean, you saw what these horses used to do. Now, granted, they didn't run as fast then. But I will say, you had horses running like the Kentucky Derby, you'd run that and then 4 days later you'd run in the Preakness. Kent DeSormo said this after he got beat on Big Brown. He couldn't, and I'm quoting him directly, he couldn't fathom what kind of freaks that the 11 Triple Crown winners were. And I will completely agree with him on that. And really, the 8 Triple Crown winners, because in the 70s, it was kind of a little less ridiculous with running distances between races, but running horses at those distances, I could not. I know they were running slower, but I just think that horses were better. And if you put some of the great horses of the past, Man of War, War Admiral, all the early Triple Crown, Sir Barton, I will agree with you. If you say Sir Barton would not have done well, I will completely 100% agree with you. But Man of War, I think 100% is the greatest horse in the history of this country. I 100% disagree with you. Man of War would be unbeatable. If you're giving him the kind of treatment that horses this year, they didn't run on the tracks in that time were not as well taken care of. Couple that with the fact that Man of War didn't run with the shoes that they run today. Everything is just better for the horses in this time. I think Man of War, if you run him today, would be absolutely unbeatable. Because also, and even if they had the starting game, Man of War does not lose that race to upset. We've all heard that. Man of War starts facing backwards in the Sanford Memorial, loses about 4 lengths, comes charging, does not get to upset because it was a 6 furlong race. In today's day, Man of War does not lose that Sanford Memorial. And you know your stuff, but I will completely 100% disagree with you on that. Man of War does not. I do not agree with you at all on that take. But yeah, so you got that to look forward to. The Breeders' Cup moment that we're doing this year. Fair point. Thank you. Thank you. I agree with that. I appreciate you understanding that I have my opinion. I'll let you have your opinion. If you think that Man of War wouldn't have done well, who do you like in the Belmont? I haven't handicapped it 100%, but if you're going to put me on the spot, I'm going to take War of Will. Horse Racing Daily, do you want to type in the comments what we're looking into starting after the Belmont Stakes? Your choice is Tacitus. I think Tacitus is a good pick. I'm going to take War of Will, but I understand that you make a fair point. If he's running the Derby and the Preakness, the only horse that's done that, I think that definitely does take stuff out of him. Yeah, I think long shots are not going to be the play for the Belmont Stakes. I don't want to say that this is going to be the race that I think the worst Belmont field in recent memory was the 2000 Belmont field. The favorite of that race was Aptitude. It was won by a 18-1 shot Commendable. The only good thing about Commendable was that he was trained by Wayne Lucas. I think he either gets scratched or a couple of days before he runs or runs well. Which horse, War of Will, or what horse are you talking about? And also, Horse Racing Daily, if you want to type in the comments the idea that you floated to me, go ahead and do that. Or you could hold that off and surprise people with it. You're talking about War of Will. I think War of Will runs well. But yeah, so the Breeders' Cup moment that we're doing this year is we're talking about 1992. I didn't want to saturate every Breeders' Cup moment with moments from the Breeders' Cup Classic because, granted, usually the Breeders' Cup Classic is the best race in a Breeders' Cup. I can't think of too many where races overshadowed the Breeders' Cup. 1986 comes to mind, 1988, although the Breeders' Cup Classic was as good as that distaff. But I did want to talk about, I think Tax runs, Joe Eva is screwed. But if he does not, he could get a early lead like Max. Yeah, if Tax runs Joe, but I really don't think there's going to be speed in the Belmont Stakes. I think whatever horse ends up on the lead is kind of on the lead by default. But I want to go back to quickly make my announcement about the Breeders' Cup moment that we're doing this year. We're talking about Lure in his run in the Breeders' Cup Mile in 1992. But you remember the 2000 Belmont Stakes. I'm going to look up that field, but that was one of the weakest fields in Belmont Stakes history. It was won by an 18-1 shot Commendable that had only won a maiden race. The only good thing about Commendable was the fact that he had he was trained by Wayne Lucas. The only Breeders' Cup I came up with on the top of my head that overshadowed the Classic was 19. Only the Breeders' Cup I came up with on the top of my head that overshadowed the Classic was, well, yeah, obviously 1990 you had you had Gopher. Yeah. And I'm actually not going to spoil that. But you had stuff that Belmont Stakes was just not good. Horse Racing Daily, are you going to be at the Belmont Stakes this year? I am going to be. All the undercard races of this Belmont Stakes this year are going to be absolutely 100% loaded. But I want to get back to that Belmont Stakes. 18-1 Commendable. The final time was 2 minutes 32.19 seconds. That's an awful time for a mile and a quarter. That's what horses in the 30s would run a Belmont Stakes time in. But I mean, here are some of the horses. Aptitude was okay, but tell me if any of these horses make you think, oh yeah, these are great horses. Unshaded, Wheel Away, Impeachment, Hugh Hefner, Globalized, Carule, otherwise known as horses that are not good. But yeah, undercard races for the Belmont Stakes are very good. But some of the races off the top of my head, or years off the top of my head, that kind of overshadow the Classic. 1988, Personal Ensign was at the bar of that Breeders' Cup Classic. Lady Secret, because Lady Secret was Horse of the Year. 1991, Arazi's performance in the Breeders' Cup was so much better. You should contact Belmont and maybe you could do some analysts on their stream. Well, the one thing, you weren't here for this Horse Racing Daily, but I will announce this once again, just in case anyone who wasn't here for this. At Belmont Park, we will have Jay Privman on camera with us for a few minutes. I'm not going to live stream that, but I will upload that after the fact. That unfortunately won't be uploaded until Sunday, but Jay Privman will be on camera with us for a few minutes. And Jay Privman will join the podcast sometime in July, and we'll talk about everything. The other thing is, just going to plug this one more time because we're going to beat the dead horse until we have him on. The Hall of Famer Gary Stevens, all-time winningest, not all-time winning, what the hell am I saying? Won the Kentucky Derby 3 times, 11-time Breeders' Cup winner. My favorite jockey ever is going to be coming on Racing Rundown. Very excited for that. Hoping that I can get that live streamed. But yeah, so really excited for that. I know you guys in the stream are really excited. I'll let you know in advance what the time is. It's not going to be something that I'll just jump on live like 2 minutes before the fact. And let's see. Let's see who's on. Someone just liked my tweet announcing the live show. But I'm not going to comment. And actually, now that you're saying that, I want to check my email. I was in communication with Santa Anita over the past couple of days because I'm trying to get the footage from the last race of Bill Shoemaker, because I'm not trying to spoil everything about the Gary Stevens interview, but one thing we are going to talk to the Hall of Famer about is he was in the last race of Bill Shoemaker, and I wanted to talk to him about that day, because one of the questions that I'm going to end up asking every single one of the guests that comes on my show, and you can expect that, is if you could go back in time to any moment in the history of horse racing and witness it, what would that be? And if you guys want to answer that question in the live chat, I would be okay with that. My 3 moments are: I would have loved to have seen Man of War in the Sanford Memorial. I would have loved to have been at Belmont Park on the day that or not at Belmont Park, at the 2015 Breeders' Cup Classic when American Pharoah won, and Bennett Bill Shoemaker's last race. Those are the 3 moments that I can think of. If you guys want to answer that question in live stream, please feel free to do so. But that's why I wanted to ask Gary Stevens about that. I tried to get as much as I possibly could out of it. Now, I am going to do disclaimer. I have left some stuff out. I'm hoping that Gary Stevens is not going to be a one-off, and I see no reason why Gary Stevens would be a one-off. But I am hoping that at some point we can have him on again and we can discuss some of the stuff that we didn't talk about in the interview. And I'm going to say this to him because I left out a lot of stuff. I left out a lot of his stuff from. I didn't even talk anything about him being an agent for Craig Perret. And then I left out some of his good horse. I didn't even talk about some of his other Breeders' Cup winners. But hopefully we can have him on multiple times and talk about some of the stuff we didn't discuss. But like I said, if you guys want to answer that question of if you could go back in time to any moment in horse racing, I think that's good for the sport too. And I think they all agree to that. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be bitter with people who don't, because I have reached out to some people. I'm not going to say who I've reached out to, but it's not necessarily that they've turned me down. It's just that they haven't responded to me. Now, what I'm thinking is that they've seen the messages, and because Racing Rundown, like, I know we have 1,300 subscribers, which, like I've said before, and I'm going to keep beating to death this point, but I'm very humbled that you guys have shown me the appreciation and really just the support that I've gotten really in the past month. It's really now a month and a half, but we're like an ant-sized channel and stuff in horse racing compared to everything else. But the stuff that you guys have given me, it's really humbling to see that. But we're not mainstream yet. And I think definitely getting guys like Gary Stevens and Jay Pridman gives the podcast credibility. And it's definitely a point that we can grow. But I'm not going to be bitter with people ignoring me because, like I said, this is not a mainstream channel. But hopefully it gets to the point where I'm not necessarily saying that I want to rival Daily Racing Form or anything, but I want to get to the point where this is definitely a mainstream channel. Would you like to, you would like to see second? Yeah, that's a generic answer, but I'm not going to fault someone for saying I'm subscribed to a baseball podcast, and that's where I got the idea for this, because they ask all their guests what moment they would want to go back to see, and they get some cliche answers, but cliche doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. I would love to have seen. The one reason that I wouldn't go back in person to see that is because I've seen that on camera, and I know being in person to see that is a thing, but I think uh I think one of the real lusters about that is not knowing that was going to happen. If you go back there and have the knowledge of it, you don't have the appreciation as someone who was watching that live and watching this magnificent animal who was really on that day was a machine. I mean, you don't win the Belmont Stakes by 31 lengths. And, when Sports Century did their feature of Secretariat and they had him as one of the top 50 athletes, and, they even they poked fun at the people who are going to say, why could you have a horse be a top 50 greatest athlete of the 20th century? And Chris Fowler said, because he was Secretariat. And really, you look at that, that's the reason why. 31 lengths, you don't win the Belmont Stakes by that. And it's kind of funny that the closest that's come to Secretariat's winning that was his son. So naturally, the Secretariat line, Secretariat doesn't get enough credit for being a decent. Now, we're not going to say that Secretariat was as good of a sire as Seattle Slew or, really, Seattle Slew was the only Triple Crown winner that, to this point, we know was a good sire. I'm not going to say that American Pharoah isn't a good sire, because we don't know anything about American Pharoah as a sire or Justify as a sire, because their runners or their foals have not run yet. But yeah, Secretariat, definitely that is something that, I would like to see, but that's not on my top. But if you guys want to drop any last minute stuff in, I am going to try to record the Tacitus Belmont profile video tonight. Have I heard of Uma Monsoon? Who is that? No, I have not heard of that. But if you guys want to like I said, if you want to drop anything in, I'm going to cut this a little bit early because I do want to get the Tacitus Belmont profile series out, and then we'll see. We'll see what we get tomorrow. It's a really weird. I don't watch that kind of stuff, so no, I have not heard of that, and it's probably not something that I would check out. No, not really. But yeah, so yeah, I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. It's also really hot in the room that I'm recording in. Not that that's a factor that's getting me to end it, but it's really hot in here. It's starting to get. I'm in New England, so on Thursday, this is the kind of weather that you get when you live in New England. It was 60 degrees on Thursday, and it was cold, and I had to go to a lacrosse game to cover that for my high school. So I was not necessarily freezing my ass off, but I was cold, and now it's 80 degrees here. So that's what you get when you live in New England. Note to anyone: do not live in New England. I shouldn't say don't live in New England. Don't live in Connecticut. Some of the other places in New England are nice. Massachusetts is nice. Rhode Island and Maine. Really, all the states that aren't Connecticut are nice in some way. But yeah, so I mean, if that's it for uh, what we're gonna get in the comments, I can end the show right here. I do apologize for the glut of content that we did not have anything, and no, I did not, and you guys probably weren't concerned about that because I did get some stuff out, but it is unfortunate that I didn't get as much out as I wanted to. But so I'm not seeing anything, so I think I'm gonna end it there because also I have not eaten yet, so I want to eat and I want to get some stuff out. I know, woe is me. This is the complaining episode. This is the complaining about technology, complaining about stuff, and that's not my headset. That's my Xbox controller. This didn't work, so I had to grab my backup headset. But yeah, so I will tweet. I will let you guys know where my tickets is. Thank you. I'll see you guys on Tuesday for the. I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. I will try to upload that episode of Belmont Profile, but I can tell you that that episode is going to be uploaded in the wee hours of the morning. And I'm sorry that I'm going to do this, but I think I'm going to group together the Derby horses. I'll cover Tacitus and War of Will in the first episode, and then maybe you know what I'll do? I'll do Tacitus War of Will tonight, and then Bourbon War Everfest tomorrow. I'm really sorry that I have to do it this way, but this is just going to kind of have to be the way that it's going to happen if we want to get the Belmont Profile series out. I'm sorry to whoever asked me to do that, but I will try to give 2 horses a video, but that's just the way it's going to have to happen. I really apologize for that, but again, thank you guys all for coming out. Really appreciate it. Once again, going to plug the social media at Rundown Racing on Twitter. That's where you can get me most of the time. That's where I'm most active. You can also follow on Instagram at Racing Rundown Podcast. And then subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. And that's really it. Gary Stevens interview June 8th. And Jay Pridman. Or no, Gary Stevens June 17th. Jay Pridman live at Belmont Park on June 8th. And then Jay Pridman sometime in July. So yeah, once again, I appreciate all the support. Thank all you for coming out. See you guys next week.